You're at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus pages want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Cornflake God, who says, rant about false advertising, especially when it comes to real estate. False advertising is definitely a big problem. I know a lot of people probably view me as some kind of like extreme capitalist libertarian or something because I don't support outright communism, but like if there's one kind of regulation I think is desperately needed, it is to crack down on advertising to make it so you have to present things, as close to reality as possible. I would even say that there's a lot of the thing about advertising is that it's always going to skirt the line as much as possible. They're going to basically go up to the line of what is legal and dance on the other side of it, which is defeats the point in a way. Like of course it's good for them, but it's never good for the consumer. It's always bad for you that advertisers are going to make their thing sound as good as it possibly can. And when it comes to real estate, it's like you really get yourself fucked over if you move into a house that is not as advertised, like that's kind of a huge deal. And every listing is going to present the house as best they can. They're not going to tell you any potential issues it has. They try to get you into a house as fast as possible. And I understand why, if it is a seller's market, especially in the place that you're at, that they basically can get away with this because there's so much competition from buyers. There's so much, there's so many people who just aren't going to ask the right questions. So they're just going to present it in the happiest light they can. I mean, usually you have the opportunity to look at a house before you move into it. So, like, I don't think false advertising is going to be as effective in real estate as it would be in other circumstances. Like, I have yet to move into a place where I felt as though the advertising was, like, dramatically different from what I got. Worst case scenario was like my last place where the landlady had explicitly said to us that filling our oil heat would cost about $100 3 times a year, and it ended up costing $700. And she totally tried to deflect that later on when I brought it up with every kind of other excuse. That's false advertising for sure. It wasn't done in writing. There was no evidence of this false advertising other than that she said it to me, but I would count that. And it definitely had a huge impact. It's a big part of why we ended up moving away. But in general, you get less false advertising and more dodgy question answering. Like, for instance, one of the places... here's a piece of advice for anybody who's renting a house or anything. If you ask your realtor a question of like, does this place have X, and they respond, well, everywhere has that, what they mean is yes, a lot. So like, I was gonna get my one of the places we looked at rather was on Aragona Boulevard in Virginia Beach, which is a road that I have lived on before. I've lived or near the road. I went to high school near this road, and I know that there's a lot of teenagers who live here. There's a lot of drugs. There's a fair deal of probably crime and break-ins. So I asked, like, is there much crime here? And the woman kind of like, well, everywhere has teenagers. So, you might want to lock up, but it's not like there's outrageous crime. And I'm like, okay, well, the answer to that question then is yes, there is crime here. Because the house I ended up moving into, when I asked the same question, is there crime here? The realtor said, oh, no. No, this, which I already figured there wouldn't be because of the location. And they were just like, no, not really, not in this neighborhood. But then I asked, are there a lot of bugs here? And she said, well, in Virginia Beach, there's always going to be bugs. The answer is yes, there's a hell of a lot of bugs here. I know that now because I live here. So, yeah, that's just a little piece of advice for you. If a realtor says, oh, everywhere has that, they mean we have that. Definitely. Because the answer could be no. Not everywhere does have that, you know. Um, so yeah, that's not really false advertising. It's more. I mean, it's close. I just wish that we definitely like. I'm all for like letting businesses run their business however they want to, but like lying about what they're doing or offering is the most anti-consumer practice they could possibly have, and like it it makes competition unfair because you can just say that you're offering something. You don't have to say, oh, here's what we're offering. You can just say what we're offering is better than the competition, and because it's a completely subjective judgment, whoever has more advertising dollars to throw around to paint the picture of themselves as the best is the one that people are going to recognize. I don't even begrudge the ability to advertise yourself more heavily. Just it needs to be done with more honesty. I mean, if you ever know about, like, my brother worked on a Taco Bell commercial one time where they were advertising some new item, and in the ad they're supposed to pull this thing apart and like the cheese goops down, in a dramatic fashion. In order to make that happen, they were there all day, repeatedly having a chef make the thing over and over again because they have to make like a special, like they have to make the best possible version of it. Then they have it like airbrushed. They have it like spritzed with water so that it glistens in the light. They have to get all this shit set up, like make this perfectly formatted version of that food thing, and then tear it and hope they get that shot and do it over and over again until they get. Which means that you will never in real life have the experience of tearing the thing open and getting that goopy shot. It is completely fake because it's not actually doable with that product. So, makes for a good ad, not true to reality. Don't know how you could regulate that without, stepping over boundaries, but just saying, wish advertising was more direct because it makes competition make more sense.